All right. So I told you guys to come with things you wanted to talk about for the Veldt. Who wants to get us started? What's something that stood out to you that you want to bring up? You can just, there's few of us that we can just talk. If we start to talk over each other, we might have to go to raising our hands, but I think we're okay for now. What stood out to you?
So can I talk, or is somebody else gonna?
No, you're good.
All right. So one of the main things that stood out to me that like kind of put me into an awe and was like very surprising is how they had all that like technology just at their fingertips, and that seemed like a really cool thing.
Yes, and do you remember when I told you this story was put out?
Mm-hmm.
When was it published? Do you guys remember?
Wasn't it like 1951?
Yes, okay. So what is the social context? What's going on in 1951 in the United States?
They're thinking that the future is going to be really tech related, and like a huge technology boom is going to happen.
What did we just get out of in history? What's going on?
The Great Depression?
No, it's a little bit later than that. This is after World War II. And so they came home, everybody's, starting to move to the suburbs, buying their homes. Everybody is kind of settling. They have their cars and their families. So picture the housewives with their little aprons serving the food. It's the 1950s. And this idea of technology was big. So you have your kitchens and everything was starting to come. And the TV dinner was new. Like everything was starting. So Jack's right. This technology that we're reading in there seems really cool to us. Do you think it was even remotely thought of as possible back then, though? I mean, think about 1951 and you're talking about what are some of the things that to us are maybe this could happen now? What are some of the things that could happen now?
A self-driving car, maybe?
Okay. Yeah. So transporting themselves somewhere without any effort. Okay. So nowadays, but back in the 50s, that wasn't going to happen. So what else besides the transporting? What about the kitchen? You watched that video, right? Of the house of the future. Did that have some of the similar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about the walls of that house in the teenager's room.
How it had like a bunch of technology and that type of stuff, just like how the Veldt had that one room.
Yeah, it had all of the screens on the walls, right? All of that on. But so yeah, Jack, the technology was pretty awesome. And we're going to talk about technology in a minute. What else stood out to you about the story? Could be anything right now. Nothing.
I guess maybe like the personalities of like George and Lydia. It was a lot different from like how parents would react to something nowadays.
Okay, in what way was it different?
So like with their kids were really out of hand, and it might not have been because of their parenting, but because of all of their like little technologies. They were kind of spoiled, I guess. But I think just with like how they reacted to certain things in the story.
Okay. So, well, let's get right to it. Was it the parenting or was it that they had all the technology?
I think maybe technology.
What do you guys think that are in here?
I feel like it was not just the technology, but the fact that because the parents really didn't have like a place in the household, that it seemed like the house would take care of the kids. So they weren't really disciplined by like the house. They just got whatever they wanted. So if it was taken away from them, they would get upset because they already had whatever they wanted.
Okay, I agree.
I agree with that.
So when you think about what Ray Bradbury was trying to teach, the theme, what do you think he was trying to show with this story? Was he trying to show something? Was he just writing a science fiction story and that's it?
I feel like he was trying to show that like in the future we might get more reliant on technology and that we should still like be able to spend time with family and like not put technology ahead of others, because the psyche, I don't know how to say that word, but
No, you said it right.
Oh, okay. Well, he said that like the reason they liked the nursery more than they liked their parents was because the nursery had like basically replaced the parents as father and mother because they didn't give the children enough attention. So I think he was trying to show that we shouldn't put technology like ahead of us and like.
Can the nursery replace them?
Not exactly, but he meant like in a metaphorical sense, like giving attention and that type of stuff.
Okay, so purely attention is what you're talking about. All right, so does Bradbury view, and let's try to give some textual evidence, does Bradbury view technology as evil? Is it bad?
I don't think he viewed it that way. I think he just viewed it as it's like a luxury, and we should see it as a luxury, not just as like a thing we should live with constantly.
Okay, any evidence that he views it as a luxury?
No, not that I know.
So let's generate some evidence of his view, his tone towards technology, because we are, we're dealing with that tone and finding his attitude. Sorry, I'm reaching over to get my bottle here. What is the tone towards technology that this author has? I know you're out there. And what do you think?
I mean, I think he's kind of like mixed in a way. Like, I feel like he knows like that it can be good in like certain ways, but at the same time, if you let it like overwhelm you, it can be bad at the same time.
Okay, well, let's generate. We've read the story, and I took it slow because I really want you to think about what he gives to you. What does he give you that in the story that makes you think he could appreciate technology?
It said that the nursery could like talk to them in a way, or like
help their brain problems.
Yeah.
Neurological.
Okay. So that's kind of hinted at a few times, right? That they thought it could be used for that. Okay. What else? Think about the name of the system itself. Did anyone write down?
It's like the Happy Life system or something.
Happy Home Life, right? And the Happy Life Home system. Anybody write anything down about that was ironic?
Yeah, that is. I didn't write it.
What type of irony is that?
Dramatic. No.
What type of irony is calling that system, which we know what happened from the system, but it's not dramatic because we didn't know yet, right?
Is it verbal?
Yeah.
Is that sarcasm?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I meant. I meant the word sarcasm.
All right, so we have that going on. He doesn't have a whole lot of things that are pro-technology in this story, really. If you go through, what are the negative things he offers us? Yes, besides, we'll talk about the end in a second. What are some of the other negatives that he mentions?
There was like a part where one of the children said, they were like, what am I supposed to do? I'm gonna have to bathe myself and like tie my shoes for myself, and that's like saying how dependent they are on that technology.
Was it just the kids? You're exactly right, Soph. But was it just the kids?
No, but like that's what one of the kids like had said. But
yeah, can you think about the parents?
Well, they know that it helps them out when they're parenting. Like it makes their job easier.
Okay.
So they like it, but at the same time, it's really powering.
Does it make just their parenting life easier? What are some of the other things that that they got out of it? Because this story is a lot about the kids, but let's think what he's saying about the parents. Griff?
Hmm.
Oh, I
And
thought
it would like cut out.
Not having to cook because like they
Yeah.
asked for ketchup. And
Yeah,
then
they didn't
you
have to
just gotta
cook.
say something about it.
They didn't have to cook. They didn't have to clean. They didn't have to do laundry. So it wasn't just the kids who got something out of this home life system, right? So let's think back then and let's address the end so we can kind of get into this. What do you think about the ending?
It's very weird. Like,
Mhm. Them kids are evil.
yeah.
Okay, when did you I was going to say, when did you come to the conclusion of what was going on? When did you figure it out? When you were reading along, when did you figure out what was happening?
Well, they had a lot of foreshadowing moments, like the bloody scarf in the wallet. So that kind of was like suspenseful to the ending.
Yes, I agree.
Well, like
I
throughout the
didn't get the
story,
ending.
they said like the parents were like hearing familiar screams, and then at the end, whenever they were like locked in there, they were screaming, and then I think it was like the same screams. So they realized that they like I thought that the Veldt thing was like playing that scene in the bedroom. I don't know. That's what I thought.
Okay, so was the nursery playing that scene or?
That's no, like the kids were putting it in their head, and it shut up. That's what I was thinking. I don't know.
Okay, so were they like running through that over and over?
I feel like that because they said that the Veldt had been there for a while, like, and it was like about death and stuff. So I think
Why do you think they picked the Veldt? That was one of the questions you guys to answer. Why would they pick that setting for the nursery?
I don't know.
You don't have to know. That's why we're having a discussion.
Isn't it kind of like a VR set? Like, you know how like you have now where you use your phone or just like you hook it up and it's basically like virtual reality? Well, basically, isn't that just that, but in like a bigger space and bigger room and more realistic?
Yeah, so why would they choose the Veldt to reenact that?
Because I feel like it's because it kind of gives them more, like, if you realize it, they don't really, it doesn't seem like they get out the house. So it seems like the Velvet keeps the kids interactive and keeps them doing something. And the Velvet is just like a way for them to just explore and stuff. Because all they have to do is read.
Yeah, so they did read about African Veldt. They said it in the story. So when they got to the room, they chose that. Somebody in Core 2 brought up that maybe they chose the Veldt because it lets them act out this situation without drawing any attention. Because the African Veldt involved what? Lions hunting,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, did anybody catch the fact that it wasn't VR along the way? That there was more than just the screens?
They could hear,
Okay, they could
And,
hear things. What could they hear?
like,
Not just be VR, hearing.
They could smell the actual blood and everything.
Okay, so there was
They heard-
smell.
They heard, I forgot what they were called. I don't know how to.
they saw a bloody scarf.
They saw
they're-
what?
The bloody scarf near the
They
door.
picked it up, right?
And the wallet.
And the wallet.
What are they? The antelopes? I don't know. They heard them running. They could hear their feet, running across the ground.
Okay. And the one thing that when I first read this story that got me, that I was like, oh, right, is the you remember when they're in the room and they could hear the sun or feel the sun
Yeah.
and how hot it was?
Oh yeah.
when I read that, I was thinking, whoa, that is not a VR situation.
At first, I thought they went into like some type of like other type of world, and I was confused at first. I was like, that doesn't even seem like it would
Yeah, I
be
was
like that.
confused.
So they did leave it up in the air how that transition happened from being just a virtual to real. How did the lions really get them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have to really explain that. It's a story. But you know, the reader's going to wonder how that happened. But okay. I'll stand out to you. What about bringing in the psychologist? What is Bradbury saying there?
The kids are crazy.
Well, the parents brought that in, right, for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a kid problem?
Not really. It was just the technology that was messing with them, messing with their minds.
Do you agree with Jack?
Mm-hmm.
You all agree with Jack? Okay, well, here's the next
Yeah.
question then. Does this relate to 2020?
Yes, 100%.
A lot.
I don't think it does.
Well,
So
I
is
don't
it a
think so.
technology issue?
I think it does way more than back then, because now they're trying to actually advance everything, and back then it didn't really seem like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say what she said about that, because I don't think it like relates 100%, like it's perfect representation of 2020, but I think it's like a kind of representation, or it
Have we
shows the
reached-
technology as a
Have we
kind of-
reached some of the capabilities?
Yes.
Yes.
But not all of them. So it's still science fiction. It's still science fiction. But I think our aspirations are heading that way a lot closer. But think about the technology issue. Does the problem that Bradbury warned of exist in 2020?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how could you put it into words? What was the warning that Bradbury was given?
How like kids were more comfortable being around the nursery than their parents, and like felt more affection from the nursery than their parents.
Okay.
And
So technology has replaced the parent.
Yeah.
I heard one of you say that earlier.
and like there was like a question and one of the 12 questions, and it was like give a real life example, and I thought about like maybe like a family event. Kids are just glued to their devices and don't want to interact with their family, and that can create like worse relationships with their family members.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. Let me ask you, is it just the kids? Is it just kids who have the issue?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
Some
again,
parents can also be
Yeah.
that way.
I'm guilty of it at times. Out my phone and checking emails and stuff when I should be interacting, right, with the family. So I think that's a fair relationship between what Bradbury was worried about. Any other things that you thought of when you were reading this story and how it would relate? Why is it still relevant to 2020?
you can also like tie it into like I don't know if we read an article, but I remember in the beginning of the year we were talking about how like people when they went to dinner in like restaurants, they would always be on their phone instead of like actually talking to each other. So that's like another example of how it could tie into today.
So it's kids going to the nursery, right? People sitting is kind of like their nursery.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of you picked to answer that question about the word nursery. What connotation does the word nursery have? Is it a positive connotation? When we say a nursery, what do we think of? Is it a
Like
good thing? Is it a bad thing?
I felt comforting because I don't know. I thought of like a baby nursery
Mhm.
and how like nurseries can make a baby comfortable because that's like their room. I don't know. That's what I thought.
5 minutes. You got to be paying attention. Hey, Mom.
Well,
Griff, mute your mic.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, nurture, the nursery, think about the word that goes with it, nurture, right? The root word.
Mhm.
And so a lot of you chose to talk about that in your questions, that nursery. Bradbury chose to call it that rather than the playroom.
Or like a game room. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was trying to reinforce that opinion about parents and taking care of kids. Okay. Any concerns about the story, things you didn't understand? Anything else?
Nope.
I think most everyone that I'm looking at here has turned in. Make sure you have completed and turned in your 5 written response questions. You have to do number 12, and then you need to pick 4 other ones. Make sure that you do it with the clever format: claim, evidence, reasoning, and make sure also that you are thinking about all of your assignments. So look back at Power School and see if you're missing anything, because we're getting to that point where we need to be moving into 4th 9 weeks, and you need to make sure you have everything from 3rd 9 weeks done. Especially look back up until the 13th. That was our last face-to-face. So make sure that you look back and all your lit circle stuff. Make sure that you are on track with that. The other thing I wanted to say is tomorrow you're going to see a video posted that's going to teach you about the genre that this story comes from. You're going to watch me go over a PowerPoint and teach you about this genre, and then you're going to need to tell me how this story belongs to that genre. Okay, so you're going to kind of classify it, what makes it belong to that genre, and we'll go from there. But any concerns about school at all? I'm going to stop. Hold on one second.